believe and try, I can be happy with me.
Hi, this is Juanita. You're watching the Kids Corner. We have a great show for you today, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey kids, are you having fun? We have lots more to show you. Have a look at this.
A game of golf. One day the good Lord was trying to catch a little catnap when Hector came exploding into seventh heaven. He threw his halo down in frustration and said, "That's it. I've had it. I can't take any more. I resign." "Now what on earth seems to be the trouble with you?" asked the good Lord in a calm voice. And he bent over and picked up the halo and dusted it off. "That's it exactly. On earth, it's baby Billy and little Tina. I can't take it anymore. Please fire me." "No, never mind, I quit." "Oh, come on now," said the good Lord, using his best Irish brogue. "Why, sure, you know you love the wee laddie and lassie. They're the cockles of your heart." "Why, Hector O'Toole now. Sure, remember when we first made that Emerald Isle now? It was a grand time, wasn't it?" "Sure, and it was that," said Hector, slipping into the charm of the Emerald Isle. "It was that, all right." The good Lord reached over and picked up a rather unusual harp with green strings. He began to strum it slowly. Let me be singing you a fair song now, Hector, me boy." And the good Lord began to sing. "Sure, a little bit of heaven fell from out of the sky one day, and it nestled in the ocean in a spot not far away. And sure, when the angels found it, why, it looked so young and fair. They said, suppose we leave it, for it looks so peaceful there. Then they sprinkled it with silver just to make the shamrock grow. It's the only place you'll find, no matter where you go. Then they spotted it with stardust just to make its lakes look so grand. And sure, they had finished it, they just called it." Hector was on the floor in tears, so the good Lord had to stop his song. "Okay," said Hector, "you win, but you play dirty pool. I'm telling you, I can't take those two little—" Hector bit his tongue. Now, said the good Lord. "Sure, baby Billy's a darling boy. A darling boy. And little Tina is a fine lass indeed. So all you're needing is a little rest, a little bit of relaxation. How about coming along with me for a nice game of golf on the moon?" "Golf," said Hector thoughtfully. "They do say it's a relaxing game. But on the moon?" "Why, yes," said the good Lord. "It's the best course around. I'll just give the man in the moon a call and reserve it for the weekend, if it's all right with you." "Well, sure, why not?" said Hector. "I do need to get away for a while and relax, but I've never played golf before. I don't know a thing about it." "Well, trust me. I'll teach you all there is to know. The very thing you need for your nerves, a weekend of golf." The good Lord was rubbing his hands together in anticipation. So the good Lord called up the man in the moon and reserved it for that very weekend. When Hector and the good Lord arrived on the moon that Friday afternoon, the good Lord was carrying two strange-looking bags. "Now this one's for you," he said, pushing one of them at Hector. "These are your clubs." "Clubs," said Hector, raising his eyebrows. "Yes," said the Lord. "To club the ball and drive it into the hole." "Club the ball," said Hector. "That sounds pretty violent." "Ho, ho, ho," said the good Lord. "Well, let's get started. Did you bring your caddy with you?" "You mean my tea caddy?" said Hector, startled. "No, of course not," said the good Lord. "Well, you'll just have to carry your bag yourself." "Carry it myself," said Hector. And he picked up the heavy bag and staggered off behind the good Lord. "Where's the tea?" the good Lord asked his caddy. "Ah," said Hector, "that sounds relaxing. Tea at last." "No," said the good Lord. "The tea's to hold the ball. You put the ball in a cup of tea, asked Hector, startled. Of course not, said the good Lord. This is the T. And he showed it to Hector and stuck it in the ground. Now take out your driver, said the good Lord. I didn't bring a driver either, said Hector. We walked, remember? No, said the good Lord. The driver is a club. It's your turn, Hector, said the Lord, getting exasperated. Hurry up, put. Put it where, said Hector, perplexed. Hit the ball, said the good Lord in a loud voice. Hector took a stroke and hit the ball with his eyes closed. Oh, now look what you've done. You've landed in a dust bunker. I have, said Hector, surprised. Is that good? No, said the good Lord. For heaven's sakes, pay attention, Hector. I think you better use your biblic now, said the good Lord. My what, said Hector, wrinkling his brow. Your midblick, said the good Lord, gritting his teeth. That club in the bag there, the good Lord pointed to it. Oh, this, said Hector. Why, of course, my midblick. I should have known. The good Lord puts his hand to his brow to judge the distance. I think I'll use my gleek, he says. Then he scratches his chin. No, on second thought, I better use my mashie. All sounds Greek to me, said Hector, trying to be humorous. The good Lord just frowned. It's your turn again, Hector. Oh, no, not again, said Hector. Use your spoon, suggested the good Lord. Why, said Hector, we aren't having tea, are we? I could use a spot of tea. What's the matter with you, said the good Lord. The whole thing sounds crazy to me, said Hector. You're just not concentrating, said the good Lord. Now what do you think you should use next? Can you tell me? Said Hector, taking a guess. Should I use my gleek? No, said the good Lord. The putting gleek, Hector, the putting gleek. Oh yes, how foolish of me, the putting gleek. He reached in the bag and withdrew a club. No, cried the good Lord, exasperated again. That's your mashie niblick. The good Lord reached into Hector's bag and withdrew another club. He shoved it at Hector. This is your putting gleek. Now, take a stroke. No, thank you, said Hector. I'm already having one. And as he put his hand on his heart, oh, Hector, shouted the good Lord. Put it. Put it where, asked Hector. Put it, cried the good Lord. Put it to the hole. That means the hole is out, said the good Lord, trying to explain. Hector bent down and looked at the hole. It looks like to me the hole is in, said Hector cockily. The good Lord threw up his arms. This is hopeless, he said. I think you're just too young to play. I'm sorry I lost my temper with you. I should have more patience with younger people. Do you know what I mean? After all, I've been doing some things a whole lot longer than you, and you need time to learn. Maybe we could play again sometime. What do you think? Hector just picked up his halo and put it back on his head carefully. Sorry, Lord, he said, but I'm going back to baby Billy and little Tina for a little relaxation. And with that, he flew over the moon. The good Lord laughed, as that is what he had planned all along. Then he went back to the seventh heaven to catch up on his catnap. The end.
Hey kids, welcome back. I love being a kid. Some of my favorite things are dancing, painting, and just having fun with my family. I have something really fun to show you. Watch this.
Patrick the polar bear. Patrick the polar bear lumbered gingerly over the ice. Ahead lay snow, and more snow. The brakes were many and dangerous, and Patrick had a long way to go before he got home. He missed Pearly White, his wife, very much. It was never good when they were separate. But alas, whenever the fish froze few and far between in the Arctic, it was needed. And Patrick and Pearly White had mouths to feed, the cubs, and also Pearly's ancient parents, White Frost and Kodai. As Patrick padded on, his thoughts were many. Kodai had once been a great hunter, but now his steps were slow, and White Frost followed, also slow behind. But Patrick had grown to love them both over the years, and so he did not mind to hunt alone. It was great in the old days when he and Kodai sallied out together. They had always returned laden full with fish and fowl. These days things were scarce. Patrick had worked harder to keep his family together. He had heard the gossip of the pack. Many thought he should abandon White Frost and Kodai. It was the way of it. Patrick thought a while. Maybe it was the right thing after all. It was the young that counted. But then the young became old, didn't they? It was a hard thing to think about. And it was only in such times as this that Patrick even allowed such thoughts to enter his head. But always, his heart stood strong. Patrick stiffened, senses keen, and listened. He could see movement on the distant ice. He waited slowly, crouched, but the movement stayed only in one place. Slowly Patrick crawled closer. Patrick's eyes were puzzled. For there, in the middle of nowhere, on a tarp, lay a cub of mankind. Patrick had never ventured close enough to mankind to see before, and he was curious. Curiosity curled his claws tightly into the ice, and there were many legends of mankind. He crept stealthily closer. Surely one of mankind was nearby, but there was no one in sight. Finally, he was right on top of the man cub. It lay crying and squirming in the cold. Something in Patrick's heart melted. He could not contain himself. Slowly he pulled the tarp edges over the squirming man cub. He looked around carefully and finally picked the tarp up in his teeth, the man cub cradled within. Patrick dashed back towards the glacier cave and laid the tarp at Pearly White's feet. "It's a female cub," said Pearly. "They often throw the females away." Patrick knew the legends, but he only half believed them. He had heard that mankind threw away the young and the old, but he could not believe it. Now he had seen it with his very own eyes. "What shall we do with it?" said Pearly White, sadly eyeing her hungry cubs. "We shall keep it," said Patrick determinedly. "But it's one more mouth to feed," implored Pearly White, eyeing her ancient parents. "Then we shall spread the fish a little thinner," said Patrick resolutely, "and there will be enough for all." He tucked a fish head into White Frost's paw. She ate it quickly. Patrick went back out to hunt again. He waited patiently along the break until one hole warmed. Suddenly fish were in abundance, and Patrick caught enough for many weeks. He thanked the good Lord for his luck and hauled the bounty home. And in his heart, he swore no one of his family would ever be discarded on the ice. And Patrick named the man cub Mercy to seal his oath.
Hi, I'm Juanita. I'm 10 years old, and my favorite subjects in school are writing and art. I really like to dance, and I like to swim a lot. And my favorite thing to do is be on the Kids Corner.
Hi, welcome to the Children's Corner. I'm Hannah. I'm Elise. I'm Juanita. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back. you like that? Have a look at this.
Sartre the seal. Sartre the seal slipped stealthily into the shallows of the Arctic waters. Below, looming, lay a school of barracuda. Sartre slipped this way and that, and finally caught his mark. Breakfast was served. Sartre smacked his lips lazily, and he coasted back to shore. All along the Arctic reef, in various degrees of rest and recline, lay the herd, like acres and acres of soft velvet fur. Why, wondered Sartre? Oh, why were they there? What was on the other side of the world? When, oh when, would he grow up? Sartre was eager. Solomon had said, someday soon, Sartre would no longer be a cub. But what would be the magic moment? Would something inside him spring and trigger? Sartre was full of hope and expectation, but his joy was overshadowed. For Sartre had memories of his little brothers, Seti and Saul, in what seemed like years ago, but in fact was only last spring. Sartre and his family had been on the beach. His mom had been so warm and soft. He loved snuggling up close to her warm body and squiggling with his brothers and sisters. But suddenly, out of nowhere came the voice of mankind, screaming and shouting till confusion lay around, much like a blanket. Suddenly, seals were lumbering everywhere up and down the beach, and only the sharp repeat of a tremendous thud had filled Sartre's ears. His mother's warm body had shivered violently as she dragged and pushed her brood to the sea. But there were too many babies, and Saul and Seti had slid out of her protective grasp. He would never forget the tears that had rolled down his mother's large brown eyes as she clasped him tightly in her mouth and watched the shoreline turn red. It was a blurring memory for Sartre, as he was so little, but he did remember. Solomon had explained it to him as he had gotten bigger. Sartre had hated mankind, and it was a yearly ritual of mankind to come to the shores and gather the furs of the seal. It was the way of it. But Sartre could not help wondering, whose way, anyway? Surely, he thought, when he had grown up, he would change this silly ritual. That would be the day. Sartre was sure that he would have grown up. But for now, he was young, and he would enjoy life as it lay and frolic in the sun. Sartre dove down deep into the bottom of the Arctic Sea and spit the barracuda bones aside. They settled softly in the ancient sand. It was, after all, the way of it.
Wasn't that great? Well, wait till you see this.
Yokojo and the Magic Singing Beetle. Yokojo was a noble lady from a very well-known house in Edo. Her parents were of illustrious ancestry, and she had been educated in all the fine ways of a lady. She was an expert swordswoman and had been trained in many of the martial arts. And she also earned the nickname Dragon Lady. But no one really knew the truth of Yokojo's heart, for when she was alone, she would sing and play her mandolin. And she was very independent and different in the way she made her music. It was not deemed acceptable for a lady of the House of Edo to behave in such a manner, but no one could persuade her differently. She would sit for hours under the bonsai tree, strumming and singing her heart out. Unfortunately, she had no professional training, and she longed to be so true a performer on the stage. This was, of course, unheard of in her family. You must grow up to be a fine lady of the courts and marry a fine samurai prince. In Edo at the time, it was mandatory to stay within one's class, and a performer was definitely out of the question for Yokojo. One day as she was strolling through cherry blossom gardens, she came upon the most unusual thing. She heard the strange strains of a very different kind of song. It sang out loud and clear, "You say I say me." She finally reached the particular bush which seemed to produce the odd strains. What do you think? There was none other than a most unusual, large, droll-looking beetle sitting there as easy as you please. He sat there, beetle legs behind his beetle head, looking up to the sky, totally indifferent to all around him, but himself. He seemed to get a great deal of pleasure out of just sitting there and singing all by himself in his little nowhere land, singing all his nowhere songs for nobody. But Yoko was definitely not a nobody. She knew deep in her heart she was really somebody. She knew that no matter what they all said, she would be a great musician and singer someday. It was true her voice was just a wee bit scratchy right now. She was sure all she needed to do was just get a little help from her friends. Maybe this singing beetle could be just the omen she was looking for. So without further ado, she scooped him up and put him in her pocket. When she got home, she placed him in a cricket cage which had been abandoned by the previous tenant. Putting a beetle in a cricket cage is a wee bit like putting a square peg in a round hole, said the illustrious beetle. My name is Yokojo, she replied, and what's yours? Oh, I'm just a real nowhere man living in my nowhere land, he hummed. You can just call me Jude, I suppose. Hey, Jude, said Yokojo, why don't we become a team? You've got a great sense of wit, and I do love to sing what we say we sing together. Come together, said Jude incredulously. You and me were as different as day and night.
Okay.
Did you like that? Have a look at this.
Welcome back to the Children's Corner. On this segment, our special guest is Mr. Christmas. Hi, Mr. Christmas. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Now, you guys may think that I look like an adult, but I'm really the world's oldest child. And so I love things like this, because Christmas, everyone is a child again when Christmas time comes. Isn't that right? Yeah, okay. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back, but please stay with us.
You know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. But do you recall the most famous reindeer of all? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer games. Then one Friday, Christmas Eve, Santa came to say,
Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?
Then how the reindeer loved him as he shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history.
Erica the Ermine. Erica the Ermine twice turned in her cozy nest. She dreamed of things most pleasant to an ermine. She loved her food, her cozy nest, and her beautiful white fur. It was a pride, but yet a curse. For mankind so loved its valuable softness that for centuries they had hunted Erica's ancestors. They would use the fur to line the robes of kings and queens. The fur of the ermine was a symbol of purity and honor. Erica wondered about the honor of mankind. She had lived long in this Arctic region and had many friends. Patrick the polar bear, Freddie the fox, Nellie the narwhal, Surefoot the snow rabbit, to name a few. But alas, from time to time, and time to time, mankind would wander in the midst of the Arctic snow with their traps and things. Many a sad tale could be told of relatives, scourged only because the good Lord had endowed them with such valuable soft fur. But the good Lord had meant the fur for protection, not pride. It was mankind who had the pride. Erica yawned, awakening. She was thirsty. She stretched a stretch and slowly rose upon her fine fur legs. Outside, the snow lay smooth, much like a blanket. Her youth and fur made other senses keen. Off in the distance, Erica heard the crunch of snow. She watched cautiously as the man came over the mound. To Erica's horror, she spied Surefoot, one sad back paw caught painfully in the trap. Erica dashed as fast as her ermine heart could dash. One thought only, to save her friend, loomed in her mind. She pulled the trap with all her might, between her teeth, till Surefoot slipped free. In his pain, he ran crying in the distance.
Now I'm going to stop it for a minute.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up upon this world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time. Bye.